between 30 and 40 grams. They field tested positive for the presence of methamphetamine. Another substance located positive for the presence of fentanyl. There was 2 separate controlled buys. Both controlled buys were arranged for an 8-ball.
Did you find any mail addressed to Christine Dillard at that address? Did you look at Miss Dillard's driver's license? Isn't it true that a defendant has to actually do something more instead of just being there?
Here's our preliminary exam in Siren, Wisconsin. Judge Mogen's job today is to determine probable cause for 2 defendants who allegedly sold drugs to confidential informants. It's the male defendant's home, so he's dead to rights. The female defendant's lawyer brings up interesting points about whether she was just a casual bystander, just visiting, or actively involved in the sale. Let's roll, nerds.
We will go on the record in 25 CF 26, State of Wisconsin versus Christina Dillard, and 25 CF 27, State of Wisconsin versus James Langer. This is a joint preliminary hearing, as both parties are co-defendants. We are here with Daniel Chapman in person for Mr. Langer. Mr. Langer is in person in custody. We have Ms. Dillard in person in custody with her attorney, Mr. Pryor, appearing by video conferencing. Ms. Dillard, at the last hearing, you indicated that you were okay with your attorney appearing by video, and you can see him over there to your left. Are you still okay with that? Yes. Okay. And if you have any questions or any concerns and you need to speak with your attorney, let me know so that I can have the jail take you to a room for Zoom and send you into a confidential breakout session, okay? All right. So before we proceed, I'm going to ask Mr. Pryor, is Ms. Dillard's matter proceeding as a preliminary hearing?
Yes, Your Honor. I've not had an opportunity to speak with her since the last hearing, so we will proceed with the preliminary hearing.
And she stipulates as to her identification?
I thought the stipulation was only if she was going to be appearing from the jail.
Oh, yeah, that's true. She doesn't need to. She's here and you're appearing by video. She just needs to waive your appearance. And she's done so. Mr. Chapman, is this going to proceed as a preliminary hearing for Mr. Langer?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Rockwell, please call your first witness.
The state calls Deputy Mogen.
Deputy Mogen, please come forward, raise your right hand, be sworn in, and then come and have a seat on the witness stand. Ms. Rockwell, you may begin.
Thank you. Could you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
Yeah, my name is Bailey Mogen. My last name is spelled M-A-N-G-E-N.
And how are you employed?
I am employed with the Burnett County Sheriff's Department as a sheriff's deputy.
On February 5th of 2025, did you, along with other law enforcement officers, execute a search warrant at 2? On February end, did you take into custody James Langer and Christina Dillard?
Yes, James Langer Jr. and Christina Dillard.
Do you see, first, do you see James Langer, the person we're referring to as Junior, located in the courtroom today?
I do, yes.
Could you please indicate where he's seated and what he's wearing?
Yes, he is seated next to Attorney Chapman, wearing an orange t-shirt with a brown undershirt.
Let the record reflect that Deputy Mogen has identified Mr. Langer.
And you testified you also took Christina Dillard into custody, correct?
Yes.
And do you see the person, Christina Dillard, in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you identify where she's seated and what she's wearing?
Yes, Ms. Dillard is seated next to Mr. Langer, wearing an orange t-shirt with a brown undershirt.
Let the record reflect that Deputy Mogen has identified Ms. Dillard.
Were you able to determine if Ms. Dillard and Mr. Langer Jr. were residing at that location?
Yes.
And were you able to identify where they were staying in the residence?
Yes, they were staying in a bedroom on would be the northwest corner of the house or the residence, or within the northwest corner of the residence.
And did you search their bedroom?
Yes.
And what was located within that bedroom?
There was numerous items of guess I would describe drug contraband or drug related items. There was drug paraphernalia. There was numerous different baggies or sizes of baggies containing a white crystal substance located. There was one larger baggie in a drawer in the bedroom. Without looking at the criminal complaint, I can't tell you the exact weight, but it was more than 30 grams. So it was between 30 and 40 grams. There was two smaller plastic gem baggies with a white crystal substance that weighed between 3 and 4 grams each. Again, I don't know the exact weight without referring to that. And then there was one smaller baggie, same plastic gem style baggie with a white crystal substance that weighed, I believe it was just under 3 grams.
And you said that they were field tested. What was the result of the field test?
They field tested positive for the presence of methamphetamine.
And you said also in that bedroom, you located drug paraphernalia.
Yes.
Was any other location searched within that residence?
Within the residence, there was a attached, I guess, an attached room to that room, or an entryway type room. There was also a detached garage that was searched.
And was there anything else that was of evidentiary value within any of those spaces?
Yes, in the detached garage, there was, again, numerous items of drug-related paraphernalia or items located.
You recall, just in general, what was found?
Yes, yep. There was a digital scale located in the garage. On a desk inside the garage, there was unused plastic gem baggies. There was numerous glass pipes, some broken, some not, or some, I guess, melted.
Any other substances besides methamphetamine?
There was another substance located within a plastic gem baggie and then a vial, and that later field tested positive for the presence of fentanyl.
And were you able to determine through the course of your investigation and based on your training experience whether this quantity was greater than a personal use amount?
Yes.
Objection calls for speculation. Foundation.
Tell us what was the reason that you executed this search warrant?
There was 2 separate controlled buys of methamphetamine with a confidential informant in, I guess, involving Mr. Langer and Ms. Dillard.
So the first controlled buy happened on January 31st, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And this confidential informant, you said, had arranged to purchase or did purchase something from Mr. Langer, correct?
That is correct.
What was the location of these buys?
The controlled buy, both controlled buys, excuse me, occurred at Mr. Langer's residence on Lakeland Avenue.
And can you describe in general how those buys worked?
Yes. In general, I received communication from the confidential informant. I arranged for a time to meet that informant. The informant had described that he had, or had stated that he had arranged for the purchase of methamphetamine. Myself, as well as other law enforcement agents, met with the informant. The informant was searched and their vehicle was searched. They were provided documented currency as well as a recording device. And then the informant left the predetermined location and went to Mr. Langer's residence or the Lakeland Avenue residence, excuse me, met with Mr. Langer, completed the purchase of the methamphetamine, and then subsequently came back to the predetermined location where he was searched by law enforcement, and their vehicle was also searched as well. At that point, the suspected methamphetamine was turned over to law enforcement for later, for evidence purposes and later testing, and then the contact with the informant was completed.
And the informant told you that on both occasions, January 31st and then February 1st, 2025, James Langer provided the methamphetamine to him, correct?
Correct.
And was there anyone present, anyone else present besides James Langer and the CI at the time of the purchase?
Yes, during both controlled purchase of methamphetamine, there was a female who was present during both controlled purchases or controlled buys. At the time, the identity of that female was unknown to law enforcement.
Did the CI give you any information about that female person?
Yes, the informant provided a first name of Christy, and that was the information that was provided to law enforcement.
And so there's two buys again, January 31st and then February 1st. How much methamphetamine was arranged to be purchased?
Both controlled buys were arranged for an 8-ball of methamphetamine, which is a slang term for an 1/8 of an ounce.
And you weighed and field tested the substance received in both controlled buys, correct?
Yes,
And did the substance test positive for methamphetamine?
both substances, tested positive for the presence of methamphetamine.
And in both instances, it was a weighable amount.
Yes,
Do you recall if it was greater than or equal to 3 grams?
one of them I know was over 3 grams, just over 3 grams. I believe the other one, again, without looking at my report, I believe the other one was right around that 3 grams.
And during both of these buys, did you maintain surveillance of the CI?
Yes,
And that was through audio or visual recording or both?
correct. Either audio, video, GPS, or actual, I guess what I would describe as eyes-on surveillance.
And again, both of these separate transactions occurred at that Lakeland Avenue address, correct?
That's correct.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Where was the fentanyl located?
That was located in the detached garage.
Going back to these controlled buys, you said they were arranged by the confidential informant. Were law enforcement involved in any way in arranging these?
I guess I don't understand.
Did he arrange them in front of any law enforcement or with law enforcement's assistance?
I guess I would object on relevance grounds.
I'm going to sustain that.
Did you preserve all of your communications with the confidential informant?
It would be cell phone records or logs.
You preserved those? I'll be getting them eventually because they've been turned over to the state.
I guess I don't know if I've screenshotted messages or communication, but I certainly could.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Pryor, questions?
Yes, Deputy Mangan, in terms of the search warrant, we're specifically inside the house where the drug's located.
Specifically within the residence of the, within the residence, there was a bedroom in that, like I said, the northwest corner of the residence. And that was where all the drug-related items were located.
Isn't it true that all the drug items were located in a top dresser drawer? Is that correct?
The majority of them were, yes.
Do you know whose dresser drawer that was?
I don't. I recall that there was documentation of Mr. Langer's in that drawer.
Do you believe that it was Mr. Langer's drawer?
I believe that Mr. Langer had identification in that drawer, yes.
That's my next question. Typically, when the law enforcement serves a search warrant, they typically get mail with one of the co-defendants' name on it. Did you find any mail addressed to Christine Dillard at that address?
I don't recall personally finding any mail within that bedroom with Miss Dillard's information on it. Again, personally, I don't recall finding any of that.
Did you look at Miss Dillard's driver's license to see if she changed her address to that location?
I do not recall what Miss Dillard's driver's license address was at the time of the warrant.
Isn't it true that she originally was staying at a camper that was located out back at this residence, correct?
Yes, that was correct.
And isn't it true that the Miss Dillard had the CI indicated that Miss Dillard or this person named Christie had reddish hair, correct?
Yes.
In terms of the undercover buys, what specifically did Miss Dillard do in order to help effectuate these buys, either directly committing the buy or either directly helping the buy in the commission of the crime, or aided and abetted in those two undercover buys?
Ms. Dillard was present during both buys, or both controlled buys. The second control buy, Ms. Dillard was observed to be standing right next to Mr. Langer while Mr. Langer was interacting or using the digital scale on the desk.
Isn't it true that a defendant has to actually do something more instead of just being there to be charged as a party to a crime?
I'm gonna object, Your Honor. I don't know that Deputy Mangan can answer that question.
Sustained.
What specifically did Miss Dillard do if she was there to help effectuate the delivery of these substances?
Objection, I think that's been answered.
I don't believe that specific question has been answered, so that's overruled.
Could you just repeat the question for me, sir?
What specifically did Miss Dillard, if she was there, do in order to aid and abet in the delivery of these substances?
I guess I'm not sure. She was present during the second control buy, or excuse me, she was present during both control buys. But specifically, I guess I didn't observe her do anything to assist Mr. Langer.
And you had quote unquote eyes on surveillance, correct?
During a portion of the operation, yes.
I have no other questions.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Either counsel wish to make any argument?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Pryor?
Your Honor, I don't think that Miss Dillard has been adequately identified in terms of the officer. He can identify her in court, but cannot identify that she was actually there at the residence, even though he had eyes on surveillance. I don't think that she is a party to a crime of delivery of methamphetamine, either on Friday, January 31st, or what count 7 should be February 1st. The complaint fails to state the actual date on there. And maintaining a drug trafficking house. Just the drugs that were found are in a top dresser where Deputy Mangan even indicated that was Mr. Langer's. Also, Deputy Mangan indicated that the CI was specifically targeting Mr. Langer and did not know, and the officer indicated that did not know that there was going to be a woman that was going to be there at the residence. There's no evidence to suggest that Miss Dillard would even know that there would be narcotic drugs that are there, nor that there would even be drugs in Mr. Langer's top dresser drawer. Therefore, I don't think that there's enough probable cause to believe that Miss Dillard committed a felony as a party to a crime in these matters. Being a standby person doesn't make someone a party to a crime of delivery. They have to actually do something in furtherance of that conspiracy. And we don't even have an address or have any information that she's even a resident of this address for maintaining a drug trafficking place.
Ms. Rocco?
Well, Your Honor, first, I think as everyone understands, the state has to prove by a probable cause burden that a plausible account of a felony has occurred. Certainly, there are enough reasonable inferences here for each of the counts charged with respect to Ms. Dillard. These counts are also transactionally related. We have the search warrant in which we discover, as Deputy Mogen testified, that Ms. Dillard is residing in this bedroom where more than 30 grams of methamphetamine is located, along with numerous items of drug paraphernalia. So certainly she's in possession of these items as a party to a crime or directly. And then the maintaining the drug trafficking place and the deliveries which she was present for, as Deputy Mogen has testified, even noting that she was present and in view of the camera right next to Mr. Langer when drugs were being delivered. Certainly, there are enough reasonable inferences that she was involved by a party to a crime standard with the deliveries, but there's also the transactional relatedness. So I'd ask the court to bind over on all counts.
Thank you. Party to a crime means they either directly committed the crime themselves, they aided and abetted someone who is committing a crime, or they conspired with one or more persons to commit a crime, and affirmative actions and or steps were taken towards that commission of the crime. In a preliminary hearing, the state does have the burden of proving at least enough evidence to show a felony was probably committed and probably committed by the defendants. A probable cause showing is something that would lead a reasonable officer with similar training and experience to believe that the individual was probably committing a crime. The court cannot weigh evidence. That's for the jury to decide. I can't determine credibility, and probable cause is it's not a high bar. The probable cause test, it's not a high bar to reach. I have to view the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, and in connecting the dots, at least as it relates to probable cause, there's definitely probable cause as it relates to Mr. Langer for all counts, given whether or not the dates change or the charges change. He is charged with at least a felony where the court can find probable cause. And as Ms. Rockow did point out, if I bind over with a felony, one felony, I must bind over all felonies, all matters. As it relates to Ms. Dillard, there's at least enough here to show in the light most favorable to the state that she probably committed a crime in Burnett County. Again, same thing as to the charges and or the dates with the evidence and the information that was stated here in court here today. So based upon that, the court does find probable cause to bind over Ms. Dillard as well. So both matters are bound over. Information's Ms. Rockow.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy watching this content, please like and subscribe. It helps new channels like this one gain exposure. There is a lot more good court to come, so if you like what you saw, tell your friends. If you didn't, tell me, and let me know what you'd like to see and how I can improve. Thanks.